Okay, guys, we are going to walk through the very first packet tracer lab here. We did this in class, but for those of you having trouble, I thought I would make a video for you. So the first thing you need to do is access your Cybersecurity Essentials material, go into Chapter 1, and at the bottom of the material, there's a bunch of links here. We're going to go to where it says Course Index, and in Course Index, we're looking for Packet Tracer Index. And here are the labs, the packet tracer labs for chapter 1. And for this video, we're going to be doing creating a cyber world. So you click on that. That is going to bring you to the page that has the lab materials on it. You need to download both of these. The PDF file right here. As we do the lab, you want to go back to your PDF file, and there are little sections for you to type in your answers. Make sure you're doing that as we go along. At the end of the lab, you need to download, save, create this PDF file with your answers in it so that you can upload it to the lab module. If you don't upload this PDF with the answers in it, you won't get full credit for the lab. Um, I'm not going to do that in this video as we walk along. I'm just letting you know that that needs to be done as well as the other things that we are doing. So you download that PDF and answer the questions in it as we go along. And then you also are going to need to do this second link here and download this PKA file. And once you've downloaded that file, navigate to where your downloads go. As you can see, I've already done this a few times here with the PKA files. So navigate to where that you downloaded that file and just click on it and open it. If your computer has Packet Tracer installed on it correctly, which it should, you just click on this and it will open Packet Tracer app, and it will automatically have all of the lab materials and things that you need in it. Recommended advice here, don't click on that multiple times. It takes a while for the packet tracer to open up and get going. If you click on that file a bunch of times, the packet tracer app will open a bunch of times and you'll have a hard time trying to figure out where your windows are and what's what and what's going on. So just click on that once, be patient, and wait. It will load. As you can see, it's loading here on mine. Sometimes when you load Packet Tracer, it requires you to log into your Cisco Network Academy account. So if it does that, go ahead and click the button that says Cisco Network Academy login, put in your credentials. Once you do that, it will bring you right back to this page. So if you're seeing that right now, do that, log in, and then come back. Your user profile here for your lab, your user profile name does not want to be guessed. What you want to do is you want to enter your name here. This is the equivalent to putting your name on an assignment. So if you turn in an assignment and it says guest, there's a really good chance you won't get credit for the lab because your name's not on it. You won't know who to give credit to. I am going to recommend that you put your OTC email address in here too, just so we have double ways of saying who did the lab. So we'll get that typed in, press OK. Now what you're seeing here, the activity, this is the same thing that is on that PDF file that you just downloaded. You want to fill the PDF file out separately to turn that in, but you can have this so you don't have to jump back and forth between the PDF to walk through all the steps. You definitely want to hit this little dock button here. That's going to dock it and put it into the app. If you don't do that, then while you're performing these steps, your directions are going to keep disappearing on you, and you're going to have to find it. So, highly recommend you click that dock button and put the directions actually in a section of the lab here. Okay, let's jump right into it. So background scenario here. In this activity, you will configure basic server components. The IP addressing configuration is already complete. We will find out here real quickly that that's probably not true. There are a few things you're going to need to do besides what's in this what's in this thing. You will use the server tab on multiple servers to deploy FTP, web, email, DNS, NTP, and AAA services. And we are going to just go right into it from there. So the first thing you want to do is click on the Metropolis Bank headquarters. And so these packet tracer labs, they start out with a global overview. And we are going to go to the Metropolis Bank headquarters. You want to click on the little cloud here, not the picture. You can click on that picture all day, nothing will happen. You click on the cloud and it brings you to where you need to go. Zoom out a little bit here so we can see the bank headquarters here. So now that we've clicked on the headquarters, we get a little blueprint layout of what the headquarters looks like. We got a parking lot, the entrance. We got a blank room here, reception, presentation room with Phil's computer, an office with Sally's computer, printer, and a switch here. Go into another switch. Got Bob's office, bathroom, storage, hallway, and network closet has all of the servers that we're going to be poking around on in this lab. Right here, these 3 servers, they have 2 services, 2 protocols running on each of them. And so first thing we're going to do is step 1, part A, set up the FTP web server. So we're going to click on the FTP web server. And when you have a module open like this, I'm going to tell you definitely hit this little checkbox here that says top. The reason we're going to do that is because if you don't hit that button that says top, if you click somewhere off of that, it disappears. Now you have to figure out where it went. You have to find it again. So go ahead and click that top button. Now we can click around wherever we want. And we don't lose a module that we're working on. We're in the FTP server. We're going to click the services tab, and then the protocol that we're working with is FTP. So that is part B of step 1. Part 2 is got to turn the FTP server on. So it's got to be on for it to work. And that's all there is for step 1. I like to pretend to hit the save button because out there in the real world, you go and change settings and don't hit the save button. Your settings won't be saved, and all that hard work for nothing. In this one, we only did one little click, and there is no save button, but we'll pretend that there is. Moving on to step 2, we're going to allow users to access the FTP server. Okay, so we want to put in Bob, Mary, and Mike, and they're all going to have the same password of Cisco123. So username Bob, all lowercase letters, Cisco123. And what I'm going to do right now is take that Cisco123 and select all of it and do a little Control C to copy it and put it in my clipboard. Actually, we don't need to worry about that with this module. So scratch that clipboard thing. So we're going to add Bob here, and it says that they want to have user accounts should have full permissions RWDNL. And the RWDNL is referring to these right here: write, read, delete, rename, and list. So we want all of those checked because we're giving Bob all of those permissions. Click the add button. Now a quick workaround here so we don't have to do all of that again for Mary and Mike. Just click Bob's name. See, it puts all that back up there for you, nice and neat. And then change the name from Bob to Mary. Now click the add button. We got Mary in there. Just click that again and type in Mike. Add that button. Now we got Bob, Mary, and Mike. They're all in here. They all have all the permissions. They all have the same password, Cisco123. And we can move on to part 2. We're just configuring the web server. Now we don't need to go back to the bank, and we don't need to go back to the FTP web server and select those because we already have that right here in front of us. So we're good with that. What you want to do is go to the HTTP services, and look at that, they're turned off. We can't have HTTP and HTTPS if they're turned off. So we turn those on. Part 2, step 1, done. You can pretend to click the save button. That's a good habit. We are going to go to Sally's computer. So we can go ahead and close the server module, go to Sally's computer here. And I'm going to go to her desktop, and we're going to take a pause right here and move away from these steps because it said in the directions that everything was set up, but I've run through this lab quite a few times and come to find out it's not. There's a little thing that we need to do here. So we're going to Sally's desktop, and instead of going to the web browser like it says, first we're going to go to the command prompt. In the command prompt, we want to type in ipconfig. That's ipconfig, and just hit the enter button. And you can see here that Sally has no IP address. Her IP address is 0000, which is not an IP address. If we were to continue down the lab, Sally's computer is not going to work correctly because it's not been assigned an IP address. So to get her an IP address, we type ipconfig space / and the word renew, RENEW. Once you do that, it will reach out to the DHCP server and get her an IP address, and it's assigned to her 1044.14 as an IP address. So now we can move forward with the lab. If you're having trouble with Sally's computer and you can't get things to work, just to get the lab done, you can use Phil or Bob's computer. I recommend that you just go ahead and fix her computer. Running ipconfig is going to be a thing that you'll do a lot out there in the world. So I recommend you just go ahead and go through these steps and use Sally's computer. But anyways, so that gets her an IP address. Now we can move forward back to the directions here. So step 2, part B, going to the web browser. Come on, web browser. That was neat. Okay, so the web browser window disappeared for some reason. But anyway, we're back at it. So we're in Sally's computer in the desktop module looking at the web browser, and we are going to go to www.cisco.corp. And we just hit the go button. And this is another one of those things with Packet Tracer where you want to be patient. Don't click the go button over and over again because it'll try and do it over and over again and you'll be sitting here all day. You just have to be patient and wait for it. And some of the other modules, it has a little window down here that tells you what it's doing. I wish that the web browser did that so you could kind of have an idea of if it's doing anything at all instead of just sitting there staring at it. So my dog hates it whenever I talk to the computer and there's nobody else in the room. She thinks I'm talking to her. She's sitting over in the corner just whining and crying, trying to figure out what's going on. Come here. Come here. Say hi to everybody. This is Daisy Dog. She doesn't understand why I'm talking to a computer. There's people on there. I'm trying to show them how to do this lab. Yeah. So, hey, look at me. Chill out. Okay? Don't need to be crying. Everything's cool. Okay? I'm going. Okay, here we go. So we got a host name unresolved. So what that means is we typed in this domain name and the web browser was unable to use the network to figure out what the IP address was. The domain name is not getting resolved. So, okay, then we'll move on to the part C in step 2, which is to use the IP address. And 10.4.4.1.2.5.4, 10.4.4.1.2.5. We hit the go button, and that works. So we are able to get to the cisco.corp through the IP address. We're not able to get there through the domain name. So question for you to put on your PDF file is, why would a user be able to browse to an IP address but not to a FQDN? FQDN is fully qualified domain name, and the reason they would not be able to do that would be because there's something wrong with the DNS. Maybe the DNS server is not turned on. Maybe the DNS server isn't configured correctly. Something's wrong with the DNS. If the IP is working and the domain name's not. because that's what the DNS server is all about. And that is the next part here is actually configuring that domain name server. So we are going to get out of Sally's computer here. We're going to go to the email DNS server here. Click our top button so we don't lose this module. And now we're going to go to the services tab and we're going to go to the DNS tab. And oh, look at that. It's not turned on. So it's got to be turned on. And look at that. There's nothing configured. So we have the DNS server turned off. First off, it needs to be turned on. Otherwise, it's not going to work. Turned on, and there is a. So you're putting a domain name. It's reaching out to the DNS server, and the DNS server was turned off. But now it's turned on. It will reach out to the DNS server, and the DNS server won't know what to do with that domain name because there are no records. So we need to add a record to the DNS server. Which is our step 2. We're going to add all type A records. There are different types for different things, which we're not going to get into. Subdomains. It's just a lot of things there that we don't need to worry about for this class. So we're just with the type A record, and we're going to put in email.cisco.corp and make sure I didn't mistype anything because I do got fat fingers that like to mistype stuff. Email, Cisco Corp, looking good. It's a type A record. That IP address is 10.44.1.253. And give it a once over again. Make sure I used dots and not commas. 10.44.1.253, and then hit the add button. Check it one more time because you get one little thing wrong and nothing works. Okay, looking good here. Now we need to do the exact same thing for www.cisco.corp. It's a type A, and its address is 10.44.1.254. I didn't check with the other one, but hopefully we want to make sure there's no white space. There's no spaces after the end of these things because that can mess things up. So we go ahead and add that. Now we have 1 and 2. Go ahead and click this save button. I'm going to go back into it. Just to make sure we got this correct. Make sure the settings are still showing good. Okay, they're still showing good. And now we want to verify that our DNS server is set up correctly. So we're going to go back to Sally's computer. And we're going to go back to her desktop tab. We're going to go back to the web browser. We're going to wait for Packet Tracer to unlock itself. That's locked up and not responding. Oh, come on now, Packet Tracer. Be nice. So we got Sally's desktop open and we're looking at her web browser. Now let's go to www.cisco.corp. Hit the go button. There we go. A lot faster that time, and it's working. So it wasn't working before. Now it is working. You can put in just a domain name because we set up the DNS server. Hooray for us. Give yourself a little applause there. Celebrate the minor goals and accomplishments. And now we are moving on to part 4, which is configuring the email server. So we can get out of Sally's computer. Going back to the email DNS server, click our top button so we don't lose the module. And going back to services, going back to, or not back to, but now this time, instead of DNS, this time we're going to email. So the email server is turned off. We don't have any services running. So we're going to on the SMTP and the POP3, the POP3, we're turning on both of those services. And again, like the DNS server, it has to be turned on for it to work, also has to be configured for it to work. So step 1 is doing what I just did, turning things on. Step 2 is actually creating accounts. So everything is going to be in the cisco.corp domain. Users are going to be Phil, Sally, Bob, Dave, Mary, Tim, and Mike, and they all have the exact same password. So this, put in Phil, Cisco 123. This is the one where I want to do a Control A, select them all, and do a Control C, or if you're on Apple, whatever you do, save that password in your clipboard. And there's a reason for that, because we're going to click Add, get Phil in there. Now we do Sally, and now you can just paste that password like that, so we don't have to type it over and over again. We got Bob. We got Mary. We got Tim. We got Mike. Sounds like they need to do some diversity hiring with all these very simple names. Okay, so we got Phil. I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I missed somebody. We have Phil. We have Sally. We have Bob. We have. We don't have Dave. Dave, get in there, Dave. Okay, so now we got 7. Phil, Sally, Bob, Mary, Tim, Mike, and David. We got our services turned on. I'm gonna click an imaginary save button. So you always want to get in the habit of saving your settings, not closing things and walking off. You don't want to spend hours working on a firewall setting or something and not save it and have to go back there and do it again. So even though these modules don't have, most of them don't have save buttons, just get it in your head that you need to click save button. Moving on, going to step 3, configuring user email clients. Okay, so we have configured the email server. This is where your emails are originally going to go to and be saved and stored and routed to wherever they need to be routed to. But the end user devices are all going to have to be set up as well in order for them to work. So we're going to set up Sally and Bob's. Going to Sally's computer, make sure it stays on top. I'm going to go to her email client. Most common email client that you'll see out there on end user devices is Outlook. Most emails are web-based, web-hosted, cloud-hosted things like Gmail nowadays, but you will see email clients on end user devices, and again, that's usually Outlook, just to kind of give you a heads up of what we're kind of simulating here. So we're going to put in Sally's information, setting up her client. We're going to use a capital S on her first name and her email address. Everything besides that one capital letter in her username, everything else is going to be lowercase. So we're looking at Sally at Cisco.corp. The email dot Cisco dot corp. Let's double it up. The same email server is being used for incoming and outgoing. Sally is the name. Cisco 123 is the password, and we click. Give it a look over. See, I made a mistake. Sally at Cisco Corp. Okay, so we got Sally at Cisco.corp, email.cisco.corp, and spelled correctly, hit the save button. Okay, so now that is all configured. Let's go ahead and get out of Sally's computer, and we're going to go over to Bob's computer. We're going to do the exact same thing. Desktop, email. We're doing the exact same thing, except for instead of Sally, we're putting in Bob. Um, it's still in my clipboard, so we can just do that. Put in Bob, Cisco 123. Give it a good check here. Make sure I didn't mistype anything, and save it. And it doesn't say to do this, but let's do it anyway. Let's make sure that they're both set up correctly. Send Sally an email here. Test. Testing make Testerson. Send it. Server not found. Okay, so something's wrong. Did you guys catch what I did wrong? I didn't catch it. Obviously, or I wouldn't be wrong. Oh, that's what I did wrong right there. Okay. Oh, lost my window. So I skipped a thing. I'm sure a lot of you watching this video are probably yelling at the screen, saying, "Hey, man, you missed something." Uh, Setting up the domain name needs to be Cisco.corp. And set that. Okay. Let's send an email from Sally's. Whoa! No, no, no. Okay. Since we're on Sally's computer, this one's going to go to Bob. Testing. Hello, is this working? Yo. There we go. Send is success. Send success. Send is successful. Yay, we're looking good. All right, so stepped outside of the part 4, step 1, just a little bit, just to make sure that we had done things correctly. And you noticed that I messed up. And by testing it, I found that mess up. So here we go. So turn on both that when we're done. And we set up the email accounts. We configured the users. Why does, so this is a question for your PDF that you're going to need to fill out. Why does the email service require both SMTP and POP3 to be activated? SMTP is a simple mail transfer protocol that sends the emails. So it gets the emails to the server so you can reply, forward, create a new email. You have to have SMTP to get the email to the server. The POP3 is what pulls the, that's a post office protocol 3, that pulls the email down. So it's how you're able to download and get the email on the other side. Feel free to put that, or definitely answer that question in your own words. Feel free to look it up and get as detailed with it as you want, or as simple as you want, as long as you express to me that you understand one is for one and the other is for the other. Moving on to part 5, back at the headquarters, we're gonna set up the NTP server. So click on the NTP AAA server. Click our little top button so we don't lose it. Whoops. And going to the services tab, going to the NTP, probably turned off. It is turned off, so we need to turn it on. This is NTP is network time protocol. This is so that all of your servers and end user devices, all the devices on the network, using the NTP server to keep sync with each other. That's why it's time. That's what it's used for, but we're going to set it up here. So the authentication needs to be turned on. And we're using key number 1, and the password is, guess what the password is? You guessed it, Cisco123. Pretend to hit the save button to save our settings, and moving on to part 6. Well, that one was really simple. Part 6 is activating the AAA server. So we don't need to go back around and click to find the server because we're already in. The NTP and the AAA server are the same things. So back at services, clicking AAA, and yeah, got to turn it on. Not going to worry about port number. It's already set for us. And that's it for the first step of part 6. Nothing well. So step 2, configure the client name HQ underscore router. So gotta configure, we gotta put in HQ underscore router. The H and the Q and the R are uppercase, the rest is lowercase. The client IP address 10.44.1.1. And the secret is Cisco 123. And click that add there. Okay, there we go. So now we have a HQ router set up for our AAA server configuration. And now we're going to add the admin, and his password is Cisco123. So we have to have at least one user for our AAA server, and it's going to be admin. Go. And is there a save button at the bottom? No, there's not. We'll pretend we click it anyway, and on to nothing. That's it. We're done with the lab. All right. Let's go ahead and close this, and let's see if we are actually done. I check our results. Results say, congratulations, you've successfully completed it. If you get a different message here saying you have not completed it, what you want to do is hit this assessment tab and run down all these, see all these green check marks. If you didn't do something right, it will have a red check mark, and then you can go back to that part of the lab and fix whatever wasn't done correctly. Like if, say, the email server, if we had because I messed up on the first run through and I didn't put a domain name in. If I had checked my work before I fixed it, there'd be a red mark there, and then I would know that I need to go back and change the domain name. So everything has a green check on it. We're all good. What you have to do now, whenever you finish the lab, is you need to save it because you're going to turn this file in. I highly recommend you click the Save As button and add your name to the end of the file. I'm going to put it in parentheses, put my first initial and my last name like this, hit the save button, let that save. Okay, and now we're going to navigate to where I saved it at. I'm just using my downloads folder. And see, the reason that I did it like this is because the file I downloaded is right here. This file is not going to have any of my work in it. Now, if I saved it as that file, it would have my work in it. But in order to keep from being confused, I like to hit the Save As button and put my last name in there so that I know this is the one that has all my work in it. I know that it's saved. It's got the time that I just saved it on there. You need to upload this file to the lab module along with the PDF file that you should be filling out as you went along answering those questions. So you upload both of those files. Make sure that your lab says congratulations, you get full credit for it. And make sure your PDF is filled out with the correct answers to get full credit for it. I did mention in class, because of that IP config thing that we had to do with Sally's computer, if you decided to use Phil or Bob's computer instead of Sally's, you'll never get a full congratulations on here, and it won't give you all the points. But if you were able to do it with Phil or Bob's computer, and I can see that in your lab, I'd give you the extra points to make up for it, because that wasn't part of the lab instructions, and I want to be fair to everybody. So that's it for this lab. I hope that this video helped you walk through it, and I'll see you in class.